about the scores we ain't set. We said winner 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, F. Fam over gram, that's a message. We be stacking bread up like it's cheddar. Talking about the scores we ain't set. We said winner 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, F. Dreams over schemes, that's a
What's up?
What is going on?
Dude, first off, it was awesome to see you live and in person. Not artificial intelligence, Abdel, but the legit in the flesh gorilla in Dallas earlier last week. It was a good conference. HousingWire, Clayton Collins, those guys, shout out. They did a good job. It's not easy to do. So I'm sure there's plenty of little complaints people can make, but it doesn't, it is what you make of it. So tell us your takeaway. Like, you were on stage, man. So you got kind of both points of view.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, this is probably our I think 7th conference for the year, which is awesome. They did such a great job. I mean, shout out to McKenna and all the people behind the scenes, because that's the stuff that we'll see. And man, she was like moving and grooving, right? So if you guys ever need a striker, for your team, for Hickory FC, give her a shout.
Dude, okay, pause. So let's give more on McKenna and everybody on that team. One of the things I learned when we started Hickory FC, the football club, was that we weren't getting into semi-pro sports. We were getting into event management, and it is hard, boy. Yeah. And if I've got some McKennas on our end, because I have a day job that takes me 12, 14 hours a day. But yeah, shout out to that crew, because they don't get the visibility on stage, but there's madness happening in the background and we don't know about it. And that's because there's good people like McKenna. So good on you to give her the shout out.
100%. And I think that's the cool part, right? So we've always gone on stage and stuff like that. And then you're getting mic'd up and it's like, all right, 1, 2, go. They had like a nice called a little setup in the back. They gave these little shout out to TE, right? Total Expert. They gave these little bags and stuff like that. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that obviously is, kudos to them and putting things together. My one complaint was putting a gorilla in a glass room during lunch, and I don't think they could have really controlled that, but it was hot as shit.
You and I walked in and I said, wait, are we eating in a greenhouse?
Yes.
And it felt like that.
But it was awesome. Great venue, right? I loved, the different also call it agendas in place. I think it was a good mix. I actually kind of like, at first I was like, why are there a few real estate professionals here, right? Kind of read the room type of deal. And then I actually kind of enjoyed it, because I was like, okay, this is cool, because you're also getting this feed from the real estate side. And I think it was the second speaker, the CEO of the Epic Realty. I mean,
yeah, he did a great job.
Shout out to them.
Yeah, I mean, what a business.
Those numbers are dope, and it spoke my language, right? In terms of like setting up CRM management, kind of that plug and play model, right? Agents do what you do best of, prospecting and doing that things, while us as a brokerage build out, that infrastructure for you to kind of plug and play, right? But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed, obviously, a lot of the common themes, and what you and I were talking about, consistently, was that adoption and iteration. I kept looking at you and I'm like, if one more person says that, I'm gonna freak. But it was cool to also see, and I had said this, was there is no like buy it and forget it or set it and forget it when it comes to this stuff. One, because frankly, by the time you even purchase a platform, call it, another platform has already kind of like integrated into theirs. And that's what I'm seeing right now, a lot of, right? I mean, even with the big dogs of like Instagram and Facebook, I just noticed right now, I just put up a reel, right, about the adoption, right, that you had just commented on this morning.
Yeah.
And maybe I never paid attention to it, but I noticed like when I had posted in my notifications, it said that it can't translate to, I think it was French or something. And I'd even realize that Instagram actually has, I've seen it always translations available, but I never bothered clicking on it. But you can actually click on it now in translations, and it automatically does the translations. So the reason why I bring that up is I used to use an app called Captions, right? Just playing around with it and having fun. And it had the edited AI version where you can change the language being told. So I'm like, well, technically I don't need to do that anymore because this is already integrated. And I think that was a common norm with TE, right? Where that was like the biggest holy crap, where they essentially said, yes, CRMs are basically, call it obsolete. I mean, they literally said dead, RIP. And then they had shown how they were making a big wave into the AI infrastructure, customer intelligence, and stuff like that. And you're like, okay, so the largest CRM infrastructure in the industry, right, is essentially also acknowledging that transition and not necessarily kind of being afraid of it, if anything, taking it head on. And then I was like, okay, I think, because numbers are great, right? We track our KPIs, we're up X amount, we track our revenue, we're up X amount of basis points. We track our employees, we're less employees, more closings, cool, right? Um, but to also hear several professionals have that same vision, right? From you guys are obviously a core of what we do from our vision, and always innovating, whether it's just UI or just, hey, here's a key, move and ready, dude, build it however you want to. And I think that's the move that a lot of companies are doing, right? And
Yeah, you made me think of something. So I don't agree with I agree with what Joe Welu said from Total Expert, but maybe I hear it differently. I don't I don't hear it as CRM is dead. I hear it as that the definition of what it is now different, which
yeah,
is really what's happening across the board, right? Um, and that's something that we need to embrace while we're doing the things that you also posted about this morning, which is there's still an effort component to all of this, and there's still human hand-to-hand combat, so to speak, that is happening with the top 10, top 20% that are getting the value out of all of those things. That was a good moment for me when Joe said something about CRM being dead, but I took it very differently. Another one was Ryan Grant did a great job. He was on stage, and Ryan brought some humanity to this whole thing also, because of course you're going to ask the question, is AI going to replace the originator? And man, did he drop the mic, in my opinion, on a quote where he said, I have a wealth manager to, quote, manage my money. But the truth is, I know that person is not managing my money. There's other people that are managing my money. And truthfully, right now, they're doing it in partnership with technology, AI at some regard. But what he said was, I have a wealth manager to manage me. Man, think about that for just a moment as a referral partner or a consumer. You could make the argument that the human touch is actually more important than it's ever been, because for so many, it's getting lost in automation, artificial intelligence. So that was another one that was a big one for me. One that was a very happy, proud moment for me was when I saw you and Dan Snyder talking to each other, Dan Snyder from Lower, and you both had your phones up and you were showing each other what you had built. He built something, you built something, and then I walked up just to say hello right at the moment where you both said, oh, and it's powered by model match data. I connected to the MCP server, and it's feeding all of the, so I just give you guys a hug and walked away. My work here is done, kind of thing. And I don't really want to talk about the MCP on this call. We could do that some other time.
but it was cool. Again, to your point, right? Was within what I'm noticing now is, obviously I've been doing this for about 9 years, right? So not a long time, and nobody gives a shit how long you're doing something, right? But the reason why I bring it up is you're seeing certain waves in the industry, right? And I saw it like my prime, call it, like during COVID, right? I kind of like had no idea what I was talking about. I knew rates, I knew mortgages. I came from going to law, so I understood that part. And then I was always like very program driven, this is the right program and education and this and that. And then post COVID came, and that's where my business really blew up, when a lot of people's business went down, because I identified, all right, I actually have to understand the market. I have to understand CPI, PPI, inflation. I need to understand what are the factors on unemployment. And for the first time, I think really just this past 2-3 weeks, right, it's actually impacted the market, right? We're for almost like freaking 5-6 months, right after March, with the war in Iran geopolitically, we finally are seeing a little bit of tick down, right? For the first time, BLS showed $23,000 losses of jobs, and then for the first time, CPI and PPI was flat, CPI is up 0.1%. Grab me another originator, I could say this confidently, who understands what the hell this means, and then take that and translate it to a consumer, So I've absorbed the data.
Mhm.
Now I got to also identify who's my audience, which for me is traditionally, it's a good thing and bad thing, but is that prime white collar, call it, conventional 20 to 30% down consumer. Dude, they want to have that combo. Now I'm going to be the gorilla, hence the shirt, right? Always be yourself. And
Nice.
just
Good
be a
one.
gorilla.
Yep.
And I'm going to give it in my Jersey style response, but I'm going to have such an educated combo. Now, where I've noticed AI, so that was right post COVID, and call it like this wave now. When rates dipped, I was like, son of a gun, no, like I don't want this. I don't want rates to go down because remember, I also have my mortgage school that I don't go out there and promote as much. And I start seeing renewal after late CE, late CE, late CE, and I'm like, these bastards are coming in, right? And I started noticing when rates just as quickly dipped for like a month, dipped right back up, right? And I was like, okay, so I need to basically keep garnishing artificial intelligence to get the responses like that. But then, and I said this on stage, I've never been more on the phone with a consumer, but I've also never been obviously using AI more than ever to the point where my tokens are brutal. And I don't care how much you start playing around with it, you start doing it. If you're not abusing your tokens, you're probably just not innovating. The truth of the matter, right? But I've never been doing it, from rate lock conversations to convos on value offerings to things like that. And I think that's the part, Eric, that I'm noticing right now. That gap is widening, right?
Yeah.
Not just from production, because obviously production is the key that pays our bills, but if you continue to innovate and then showing it to your originators, showing it to your referral partners, that trust factor is only going to be, okay, this is the person that I want to be leading me, leading my team, leading our partners, putting me in front of other people. And I think that's the part that we're slowly starting to crack and identify. And I think a lot of people are realizing themselves, I can't figure this out because I'm losing time on production or team, and I need to lean on partners that have figured it out, right? And I think that's where we're really starting to see, and obviously being eternally vocal about it too.
How is that any different though than the way it's always been? It's
Same
just
shit.
something, it's a different tool now. Like the tool is certainly changing things, and it can be scary and it can be intimidating and it could have security concerns. I mean, yeah, for sure, all of the above. But at the end of the day, I could be a really good originator without being nearly as good as you or Kevin Perenio talking about, all of the small minutia economic indicators and then how that's going to impact me as the consumer. But I can certainly steal it from you and then go put it in my own vocabulary as a trusted partner, still with the same information. I think that's part of what you're talking about. The other thing that we should mention, and not just to promote you, but I'm happy to do it. You are the only originator that was asked to speak at the HousingWire AI Summit. Now, number one, just a little bit of criticism. I think that's a miss. I think there should have been more loan officers that were on stage. There were multiple agents that were on stage. Now, they all had their own point of view. One was talking from the MLS perspective, and his really freaking smart guy. I wish I could remember his name too. I didn't agree with everything he said because I felt like a little bit of it was a little salesy, but nonetheless, very smart guy. And I learned a lot. And one of the things that, he's concerned about or very conservative about is, how is this data and intelligence going to be used in a responsible way? Well, of course, we should all be thinking about that. And that's difficult to unpack. But he is a real estate agent also. And then the other guy on stage with him was a real estate agent. And then the guy with Epic is a real estate agent. You're the only mortgage loan officer. I mean, there's other mortgage bankers on stage. Ryan Grant certainly represents a lot of great mortgage bankers, but I think that says a lot. And I feel like listening to people like you, look, you did a LinkedIn post today and you openly said to the entire industry, if you want to have a one-on-one, just hit me up and I'll schedule some time with you. People should be having those conversations for sure. I'll tell you another one from the tech side of things. And maybe we save what I thought might be our topic for another topic, because you and I could just keep, because I think it's its own thing, honestly. We were going to talk about adoption and iteration, but let's maybe shelve that one. I'll tell you, man, the companies that are the most successful with tech in general, and certainly our tech, are the ones where leadership calls me to have difficult conversations. They still want the human. Look, would I love to be freaking Anthropic or GPT or OpenAI or whatever, and just to have a system that runs itself and there's no support? Have you ever gotten a human on the phone with Claude?
No.
Have you even thought to try? Of course not, because that's not the model. But when it comes to the things that we're doing, that there's still an incredible trust factor. And I think you really pointed that out well from stage, and how you truly balance the two.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is the competitive advantage, right? What made us successful in the first place was being the dude that if a realtor calls you, even if it's on the weekend, right? I apologize to my kids, and I'm going to take the phone call. Now, I've gotten much better, because I'm always talking about balance in life, right? I've gotten much better, but okay, so I have AI. If I truly can't even freaking type a text message or email anymore, or truly have the patience to do it. Let's say that, right? So I dictate a lot. So I will go to my trusted, AI platform, and I'll be like, hey, just had a conversation with a consumer, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So then I'm like, all right, so there's still a manual friction point. Why am I doing this? So then I got Plaid, right? So now every single damn phone call is simultaneously recorded. Doesn't go to a general cloud that people can access. It's my stuff internally. And I built out essentially 4 different structures. And the second a call is done, it comes to my Plaid. And then again, it's all about infrastructure. So the recording doesn't just come to me, it goes to 4 different assistants that are responsible to take that call, digest the information, and then send a recap to that potential referral partner and consumer saying, hey, Abdel wanted to share this recap. And if it's a partner call, it goes through a whole flow where there's actual visuals and there's actual really cool infrastructures input. And me as the originator, I'm on to the next call, bro. Right. So, and Eric, I think that's the missing link right now. Is everybody is jumping to Claude, GPT, Perplexity, doing this, doing that. Dude, stick with one, bro. Stick with one. Identify where it's using in your stuff, which is why you guys came out with the MCP. I was like, dude, I don't fucking want to log in and wait. And you guys have gotten better with the cookies and this. Bro, I just want to pull up my phone and be like Mary Smith at the bar. I'm talking to her. I'm shooting a shit. And I use it a lot now, right? Because now, 1, it's got our brand. 2, it's powered by a team that I trust, but I'm on the fly. Friday night, I went with my financial advisor and contractor. We both went out for dinner with our wives. I'm big on that, bringing that family together. We did, and we were talking about several professionals, and I was like, and then they were mentioning names, and I was like pulling up their names right on the fly. I didn't have to log in. I didn't have to wait for a code. And then I'm showing them, and they're like, holy shit. And now obviously they're like, hey, can I get access to that? And I think, but I also understand the importance of why I need that data, why I need that information in order for me to be able to leverage them and share with them that I have something of value, right? And then I think from there, you're able to truly either customize a specific workflow for a referral partner or just stick to the basics, man. Pick up the damn phone, communicate, respond back to an email. There should never be a point where a consumer or a referral partner is asking what's happening on a deal. When you're onboarding a loan officer, there should never be a point where a loan officer is saying what's next. If there is, you have a crack in your systems. And I don't care how much goddamn robots and AI you put in place, without the actual knowledge and understanding of what you're looking to build for your team, for your referral partners, for yourself as an originator, you're going to fail, and you're going to find yourself going into rabbit holes that you're truly not going to need. So,
yeah, no, I dig it. You made me think of something else as you were going through all that. We ran into Bree Lees, who I don't know Bree. I mean, I met her.
she's
but
beast.
She puts out a lot of marketing content. Obviously, she's a marketer, so that's what she's going to do. But she did a post about a week or two, probably 2 weeks ago. And I don't really remember exactly what the post was, but what struck me was that she was basically just calling out influential people on LinkedIn in our industry that are constantly throwing up AI generated graphics and messaging, and that it's lazy and kind of we see you sort of thing. I don't disagree with her. I don't. I also don't have that much negative feelings towards people that at least are making an effort to do something. I think she was talking about the ones that should know better, that are kind of at the top of the funnel, that, or excuse me, the bottom of the funnel, the ones that, you know, that have a ton of followers and putting out a lot of stuff. Has your motion of using AI with graphics and messaging changed to ensure that you maintain some level of guerrilla authenticity? I mean, it's one thing to train your AI also, but are you doing some manual work after the fact to say, okay, that's a cool graphic, but now I'm going to completely change it so that it's really mine? How do you balance that?
I also don't really use AI too much from the graphics perspective.
No, you don't. I mean, you put up a lot of, like, you and I are very similar in that I'm not trying to manage lighting the best that I can. I'll throw up I mean, you're in your Tesla truck, your Cyber truck with your cell phone. By the way, could you please say awake at least while you're driving? Like, dude, seriously, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. How great was that, dude? I was passed out. But of course, my wife, right? You know, the weekends are obviously a sacred, really every day, God bless, is a sacred time with my kids. But the weekend is truly like, I mean, I did do an open house yesterday, but I truly try to like separate that time. So, and my wife is great at obviously finding places. So we went to an aquarium that we've been to previously, but my son was a little younger, so we went there. We had a great time. It's not close, it's almost like an hour and a half away. So on our way, my wife wanted to call it the scenic route, right? We didn't take the highway route, so we did. And every single time we've done that, like when we've gone to Niagara Falls, we always like stumble into like the coolest little like places, like
of course, that's the best part of travel, actually,
yeah,
in my opinion.
So so we found this really cool place. I think it was called Stonehill. Like awesome, like, you know, whatever. So we went there. Thank God they had a restaurant, because you know those wineries that like have a restaurant, don't have a restaurant, it's just an open layout, and we were starving. So we went. Food was amazing, and you know, we hanged out there. We had like 2 bottles of wine. Kids are having a good time. Then we went outside. You know, did the pictures, the whole shebang. It was probably like 3:34. Now this has been a rough week, right? Traveling nonstop.
It's also hot as hell outside.
Brutal, and it's like Jersey hot 95, which is like
Jersey hot,
$1.30. So we're getting home, and I told myself I'm not gonna fall asleep. Boy, I fell asleep the second I went behind that. And there's little tricks, and I won't put it out there, right? So my full self-drive doesn't automatically get discontinued out of nowhere if this goes viral. But I was passed out cold, man, and I did that to my wife, because my wife is actually notorious for doing the same. She's usually the driver because I'm always working. And I've like taken videos of her passed out, so she did the same to me and fired it out to, you know, our whole group of family members, so they're all cracking on me.
Yeah, then you throw it up on social to the rest of the world.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, you know me. You could, I'm as
no, you're as transparent. You're as transparent as it gets, and I think you're kind of, you know, you're answering a question that wasn't really even a question, which was how do you balance? I mean, how do you balance it? The truth is, just freaking balance it. Like you're not afraid to pick up your cell phone. You're sweaty from the gym, or you're in between appointments, and put things out there. We'll just go back to the balance again. One side of the spectrum where you're saying I'm not using any of these things, you're not going to be competitive. The other side of the spectrum where you're doing nothing but trying to automate, well, that you're no longer, your job is no longer the same, and so you may end up being a bot or consumer direct or whatever. There is that balance in between, and I'm with Bree on this one. Like I'm somewhat put off as soon as I see something that clearly is AI. I don't not read it, but I am noticing that I have an emotional reaction to it, which is a little bit weird, to be honest with you. But let me also say this. Come on, dude. I love you, man. Stop falling asleep. Like I need you.
I'm sure my wife, yeah, she busted my chops about it. But listen, to your point, right? Authenticity is at its best right now. If you're a professional who, just like COVID, right? The analogy I was saying earlier, post-COVID, if you were full of shit and didn't understand guidelines and couldn't really structure a file and stuff like that, you very quickly were identified by a referral partner that you're not as good as you make it seem. When a cost of a lead used to be, I remember, $67 pre-COVID, and then it jumped post-COVID to $250 with some of these platforms, Zillow, Realtor.com. That very quick budget that you used to co-market with of $2,000 no longer really became something of value, right? And I've got a whole slew of phenomenal teammates, but now you sprinkle in some AI agents into there that are going to do the text, that are going to do the automation, that are going to do the follow-ups. But I'm going to personally pick up the phone and train your individual realtors, your individual financial advisors on how to leverage AI to automate for speed while you create more time for yourself for clarity and the delivery of your message. It is physically impossible for you to beat me. And the only thing you could potentially beat me at is price. And I run a region that I could just fucking cut my comp and I'll be competing just as quickly. So therefore, it's not about price. It's not about product. And it's not about just the professionalism. It's how can I talk to a consumer? Can I leverage that trust? Can I also learn? And this is the part that I've gotten much, much better at is, can I cut quicker too? I had 2 clients, both over the weekend, both spoke to them. One of them is selling 2 properties, right? And wants to basically buy a third, does not want to put the other properties on the market, does not want to do a bridge loan, does not qualify for a traditional HELOC financing, and they just basically want to purchase. So I went with our friends with Change, said, hey, we're going to buy this owner occupied. They've got some money in their 401k. I said we could do either an asset depletion loan or a community loan. They were far against the interest rate because they said the interest rate was high. I explained to them the differences in capital gains, the differences in wealth management, the difference in they got to keep this for 6 monthly payments. They were like, we're not going to keep it for 6 monthly payments at an 8% interest rate. I'm like, well, then I can't help you because I don't want to work and bust my butt and get the deal done for you in a tight timeline only for you to hit me with an EPO in like 4 freaking months.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it. And then the other part too, another consumer, business owner, right? Does decent money, all cash. Okay. Has some type of proof that we could do, maybe a P&L loan. Went through all the various different options with him. He was already issued an approval with another institution, right? And then we went through everything. I was like, hey man, all right, what do you file this? To even get to the mortgage application part, well, what do you have to put down? 5%. Okay, flag. That's a problem. How much are you looking to file on your taxes? She's like, well, my current lender is telling me to file X amount in order to qualify. Great. One of the strategies. There's another big strategy. You've been in business for 20 freaking years and you've been filing about 30 grand. You're now going to file $180 to purchase. I don't know about you, but that sounds a little indifferent, my friend. And I don't want to fight with having you deal with post, IRS audits and this and that. Now, this is a personal convo. There's no AI in this.
Right.
This is still the traditional stuff. Now, what do? It's recorded with Plaid. So here's where the AI infrastructure gets plugged in. I take it, I summarize my conversation, I take out the bullet points, and I drop it. Both real estate agents were eternally thankful because now they know they also don't want to waste their time with showing things to the consumer and stuff. The other really, really, really big part for me is I'm, me, all about reputation management. I've cut out loan officers because I couldn't deal with them fucking up my reputation. And I've cut out past partnerships because of that. And they've cost me money. Now, just as quickly, if I don't recap that convo, call it within seconds of that same convo, those 2 clients would have called that real estate agent and shit talked us and said that, you know what, he didn't explain to me. I don't understand why he was telling me you're being a gorilla and being aggressive. Now, when I hit you with that recap of that convo, you're like, but wait, he did tell you that you should try this route. He did tell you that you should try that route. He did advise you on capital gains, potential exposure. He did advise you on that you barely filed. And the one client, like, you're skating away from filing taxes, which cool, whatever. Your accountant's going to advise you on that. My recommendation to you, any other dipshit loan officer is going to tell you what to file because they want to get their commission and keep it moving. I don't run my business that way, right? But the point of it is I take AI now. I plug in that conversation with that consumer instantaneously. I could recap it, but I could also potentially miss a couple points. Now that agent got their understanding of where they're at, and they've simultaneously also understood that this might be something that may not be worth their time. And taking it from there.
Well, look, man, so let's close it out because we're going long. But the 2 things that we're going to do in 2 episodes, this is such a weird thing to say. The next 2 conversations that we're going to have. One's going to be about adoption and iteration. Lots of opinions on that one. Mm-hmm. Another one that you just made me think of, and I wrote it down as you were talking, was I think the problem with AI is that it's called AI. I think the problem with AI is it's got a branding problem, to be totally honest with you, because you're talking about Plaid I don't know how to pronounce it, but
Well,
actually I have one coming today, thanks to you.
let's go.
Transcription has been around forever. That's not new. We never called it AI. Now, granted, it's got connectors now that maybe make it more AI, but everything you just talked about was follow-up actions, specific follow-up actions, interaction, action, interaction, action. That's all you did. So dump the AI. You know, if it take what you just did though is instead of taking an entire day to transcribe, put it into a nice package, send it out so everybody knows exactly what the plan is, you were able to do it ultimately in a matter of minutes. So that was really great. I think that's a good kind of bookend for this conversation. One last question, totally unrelated, because you know I always have to throw in something that's got nothing to do with nothing. Over under 8 wins for the Giants this year.
I'm going under.
Oh, everybody's going under, which means it's going to be over. I'm going over.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, man.
Do you not believe in, is it Dart or is it new or what? Do you think it's going to take Harbaugh a year? Is that the point?
I think they just need to stay healthy.
That's always true for sure.
If Dart stays healthy, Scabado stays healthy. I mean, I don't know if Odell.
Scabado's not staying healthy. The dude's a battering ram. I mean, he was like Jeremy Shockey. You just enjoy him while you have him because he's not going to be around very long.
And then you've got, I don't know if Odell did officially sign or didn't sign. I know it's kind of like out there.
He did, but maybe I was wrong.
But the big part too is
Malik
is not a bad influence on neighbors.
Yeah.
Right. So that was something I was talking to somebody over the weekend. And it can go twofold, right? Hopefully you can get the pre-Odell before his fame and him being a goon and getting in trouble all the time, and without impacting neighbors. And neighbors got to stay healthy too. So I think the first 2 or 3 games of the season will hopefully identify where it goes. I mean, you've got the best of the best with Harbaugh, so hopefully.
I just hope that defense smashes people. I want to see people get smashed on the other side of the ball. I mean, if we're not gonna win, I'm part of the freaking team. If they're not gonna win 8 games, well, then I want them to punish the teams that they're losing 7-3 or what. Yeah, make them old school NFC East ugly games.
Chicago Bears
and just smash people. All right, dude, you're the best. I'll talk to you next time.
You got it.